Member of the Judiciary Committee. Congressman, thank you very much for joining us tonight. It's nice to have you here.
My pleasure.
It is a historic day. We've never before had a sitting president have his campaign chair be sentenced to federal prison. I just want to get your top-line reaction to that big news today.
Well, obviously, this is a big event. This is a serious conviction and sentence. There are 199 criminal charges, 37 indictments or pleas, and now 5 individuals sentenced to prison. So this is significant, but I agree with your earlier guest. It's pretty extraordinary that for the breadth of these offenses, squirreling away $55 million outside of the IRS and avoiding taxes on that, fraud and bank fraud and the like, that he would receive a sentence so different from the sentencing guidelines. Those guidelines are designed to prevent disparity in sentencing because that disparity brings incredible disrespect for the judicial system, and that's why they were created. So the idea that the court would depart from the guidelines, which were 19 to 24 years, so significantly, and give Mr. Manafort only a 4-year sentence seems pretty extraordinary, and I think is very much a response to white-collar criminals that we too often see in our criminal justice system. Our prisons are filled with people who are serving much longer sentences for small drug offenses. So I'm disappointed. I don't think it did justice, but it's only the first part of his sentencing. He has another one next week, and I'm hopeful that the judge will sentence him appropriately next week and send a strong message about this kind of corruption and this sort of conduct and impose a sentence consistent with that.
One of the things that I've found interesting, I initially found it unusual, I now find it interesting, that in public-facing filings in the Manafort case, and now increasingly just speaking out loud, his defense team is mounting a very Trumpian defense for Mr. Manafort. Mr. Manafort is not charged with Russian collusion. He's not charged with having, interacted with Russian government or intelligence officials at the time that in any way facilitated their attack on our election to benefit Mr. Trump. Nevertheless, despite the fact that he's not charged with that, they're making this public-facing defense that is no collusion, no collusion, no collusion. You would think it was beside the point for Mr. Manafort's case, but they are making this case publicly. And to me, one way that may make sense is if they are trying to make the case that the president should pardon Mr. Manafort. And it shouldn't reflect on the Russia case at all if the president does that, because Mr. Manafort's case is totally separate from the Russia scandal. I wonder on the Judiciary Committee if it is a matter of concern or potential investigation on your committee, the prospect of the president discussing pardons with people, including Michael Cohen, including Mr. Manafort, including Mr. Flynn, others, as a way to try to protect himself in these various investigations.
Absolutely. I think there is tremendous interest in that, and we will certainly continue to conduct oversight on that very issue. I thought it was very strange to see his lawyers come to the podium and say, oh, by the way, no collusion. It was as if President Trump wrote his lines. It was very bizarre, sort of unrelated to the case in Virginia. But I think, the idea that conversations were had or pardons were dangled in an effort to perhaps persuade people not to cooperate or not be truthful is of considerable concern to the Judiciary Committee, and something that I know that we will investigate as part of our overall investigation. I think the other thing is really kind of ironic is on the very week we are about to pass this enormous democracy reform, cracking down on corruption, raising ethical standards, getting money out of our political system, there are these serious convictions that continue in this administration for corruption that undermine the rule of law in our country, and it's a kind of interesting contrast.
Yeah, to have the president's campaign chair sentenced to years in prison for various kinds of fraud, and next week he'll face sentencing on his unregistered lobbying stuff. To have that happen while the House tomorrow is likely to pass this huge Democratic reform anti-corruption bill, it's as if it is, well, it sort of seems scripted. Congressman David Cicilline of Rhode Island of the Judiciary Committee. Sir, thank you.